Welcome back to the Tracey Boards YouTube channel. Oh, you are going to join me, all right.
Welcome back to the Tracey Boards channel. I'm Garrett, and
I'm Jeremy.
you know us, we're from the Tracey Boards team, and today we are doing a mid-season review of the National Crokinole Association. We are going to give a brief summary of what's happened so far, what the top 10 rankings look like currently, and what you can maybe expect, some of our personal predictions, and what could possibly go down up until the 2025 World Crokinole Championships, which will end the season.
Full disclosure, we got sheet notes here because there's a lot to cover. So far this season, and this is, I'm biased, but I think this is absolutely amazing. We have had 6 Tier 1 tournaments, 4 Tier 2 tournaments, 8 Tier 3 tournaments.
Now, if you're looking to watch any of this coverage, we at the Tracey Boards channel have taken over from Crokinole Center. So you can see all the Tier 1 tournaments and a plethora of Tier 2 and 3. If you want to see some of the other matches, the Brooklyn Crokinole Club has their personal tournament up on their channel. Chevetos Crokinole has also done a great job covering tourneys in the UK, so make sure to check out both those YouTube channels. And if you know of anywhere else that you can watch National Crokinole Association events that we've missed, just leave it in the comments. We'll pin that so people can go and enjoy more competitive crokinole coverage.
To quickly review, a player's standing is based on their top 5 performances. If you'd like to know more information about that, it's available on the NCA page, as well as there's a separate video that goes in depth as to how these standings are calculated. For now, let's move along.
Without further ado, let's get into the top 10 standings. And at the top of the rankings currently, we have Andrew Hutchinson, our good friend, currently at 224 points. He has been a top 4 placer at every single Tier 1 tournament. Him and Jeremy placed 3rd at the World Crokinole Doubles, then placed 4th at World Singles. Then at Turtle Island, he beat the current world champion Connor Ryman in semifinals, and then Josh Carfiello, who he lost to in the semifinals previously. Then Belleville, 3rd or 4th, Scenic City, 3rd with Jeremy, and then 2nd place at the Ontario Doubles. So he has been on an absolute tear this season. And before we go any further, we don't normally talk about the competitive crokinole world in depth. Andrew Hutchinson does this regularly on the Pink Shirt Pod. So make sure to go check that out. It's on Podomatic. I believe that is the main channel for it. Yeah. I know it's on Spotify. Look it up, Pink Shirt Pod, if you want to hear regular competitive crokinole conversations.
Currently in 2nd place in the standings, we have Josh Carfiello with 222 points. He has transitioned over a few years ago from the Qs division, where he was very successful, very dominant there. He flipped over to Fingers, and he has just been on a steady rise since then. I believe his first win was the Elmira Singles Crokinole Championships in May of 2023. And that guy is, when he gets dialed in, he is just a robot. He just 20s. Every aspect of his game is fairly strong, very strong. And 2nd at Worlds against Connor. His lowest score so far this season has been 33 points as a top 12 at World Doubles. And when Josh partners up with Ron Langell, those two are a force to be reckoned with. They have a tremendous track record as well. And in 3rd position this season,
1 point behind Josh Carfiello is Justin Slater, who really doesn't need any introduction, but we're going to give it anyways if you're living under a rock. He is a 5-time World Crokinole champion and arguably one of the most famed crokinole players out there. He started out the season extremely strong, winning the Crokinole Doubles alongside his father, Fred Slater. He then won the Belleville Crokinole Challenge. He made top 8 at Ontario Doubles. That was his 5th tourney overall. So yeah, his lowest placement right now has been at Scenic City, where he placed 6th. So he's still doing amazingly. So those are the top 3, and these competitors we have seen at the top before. I believe the last season of the NCA, they were amongst the top 4 as well. Something I will note, my first immediate prediction, is Andrew Hutchinson's lowest scores aren't all that low. I believe his lowest is 41 points currently.
Given that we take your top 5 scores, Justin and Josh each have the opportunity to eliminate a lower score than Hutch does. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying Andrew Hutchinson's going to lose it. He is going to lose it ever so temporarily, and then it'll be a fight amongst those top 3 for sure.
4th in the standings, and a bit of a gap here. There's 8-point gap down to Ron Langell, Rotten Ronnie, and he's been playing competitive crokinole for a few years now. Fantastic on his own, and you partner him up with Josh Carfiello, and those two are a force to be reckoned with. His lowest score is a 33 when he plays 7th at World Doubles. and 38 points for 8th at World Singles. So he also has the opportunity to move up. I never count Ron out when I sit down across from him, and I've been saying that for a few years now. I feel like he's a little bit underrated, but he's starting to gain a little bit of street cred, I think.
A little bit underrated. I think he's the most underrated player in the top 10 standings. I mean, the name Rotten Ronnie is quite literally feared down in the States because of his performances at the U.S. Open. We went down there for Maryland, and Mark Ponzio and a few others were telling us, when you sit across from Rotten Ronnie, you know you are in for a rough match. So, very underrated. I'm excited to see how the rest of his performance goes for this season.
Speaking of people that aren't always fun, super nice guy, not always fun to sit across from at the board.
Jason Bierling. Jason Bierling is currently 5th with 212 points. He is one of the most famed Crokinole players as well, alongside his brother Ray Bierling. Those two are 8-time world Crokinole champions. They both have had a great season. Partnering together, they won the Scenic City Crokinole Classic. They were top 8 finishers at the Ontario Doubles. But Jason has had a great performance in singles as well. He's been a top 4 finisher at Turtle Island. He lost against Carafiello in that semifinal. He almost beat Justin Slater in the Belleville semifinals as well. Quite literally one Open 20 away from beating Justin Slater, which is quite a feat. Unfortunate to lose that, but the point being, Jason Bierling is an absolute sharp shooter. And with a lot of singles tournaments coming up, the way we've seen him perform in those, I think he has a lot of potential to jump up. If he even gets another few more top 4 finishes, potentially a finalist and maybe first place at some of those, he could be primed to jump to those top 3 placements and potentially take it all. So that's something we'll have to see. We're going on to the newest player in the top 10 standings, and a true up-and-comer. I'll let you talk about him. Sean Haggerty.
Super nice guy, hailing out of Guelph, Ontario. What has it been? Maybe a year he's been in competitive Crokinole. And if you followed the people doing the Open 20s challenge, he has an absolutely insane record. He was spare time when he was down in Arkansas. He sat down at his bad boy mowers board and dropped like 76 in a row or some
64. You're thinking about Steve Burrows.
A lot. He dropped a lot of 20s. Anyway, Sean is an absolute assassin. His Open 20s are good. His strategy is good. He stepped in and partnered with Hutch Daddy Hutchinson when I was unable to play in the Ontario Doubles, and they placed 2nd. He is sitting at 197 points. So there's a bit of a gap between Jason in 5th and Sean in 6th, but absolutely surmountable. And that moves us on to...
In 7th, we have Ray Bierling, currently at 194 points. We've already talked about his double performances alongside his brother. They've done very well. Again, 1st place at Scenic City, 5th place at Ontario Doubles, as well as World Championships. Ray has consistently been a top 10 or at the cusp of top 10 for those singles tournaments as well. So great performances from Ray. I would say the similarities, this is my second prediction, between players 4 through 7 in the rankings is that they have shown the potential to be able to win tournaments or get very high. So I suspect that we'll see at least one, if not more, of these players jump up into the rankings. I'd say all of these have a shot at those top 5, top 3, maybe first place spot for sure. And then we move on to number 8.
Some schmuck. I'm speaking of my favorite middle son, Garrett Tracey. And really burst onto the scene this year. I mean, you've been playing, but it's fair to say you've taken it a lot more seriously in the last year and a half. So top 16 at Worlds, 1st in Maryland, 4th at the Scenic City with Nathan Walsh. Lowest score, 29 points, 9th place at the Ontario Doubles when you partnered with Jeff McKean. Really showing some promise. I feel that the way it's going with the players coming up behind, you have the potential to hold on to a top 10 spot and maybe even move up a little bit. And I would be wicked impressed to see you really jump up. And that's not putting you down. It's just saying like the ones ahead of you in the standings are just, they're tough to beat. They're really tough to beat. And you get to talk about the next schmuck on the list.
The next schmuck on the list is none other than Jeremy Tracey. We are very close in the rankings. What is it, like 3 point difference? What do we got here? 3 points. I got him by 3 points. But no, Jeremy Tracey needs no introduction. He has done fantastically in previous seasons. I don't know where he finished in the previous season of the NCAA. It's either 5th or 6th.
Yeah, I think the last like 2 or 3 seasons that I was like sitting 5th, 6th, 7th, right in there.
My father has done fantastically well. Like we mentioned, we won the Maryland Doubles Championship. You also, again, placed 3rd in the World Crokinole Championship. So that proves a lot of prowess. You have a low score from the World Singles. And something I wanted to note, it's like 11 points. You placed 35th. Jeremy will more than likely cancel that out very shortly. Yeah,
my 11-point score. I better cancel that out.
I hope you do. We'll probably see that, and then we'll pass it on to our final 10th place person.
In 10th place, we have Fred Slater with 164 points. He is the other half of the Slater duo. He's Justin's doubles partner and Justin's father. Those two are a force to be reckoned with. Fred, even on his own, he has some, I do not take him for granted when I sit across the board from him. Has had some fantastic finishes. 1st at World Doubles, 3rd at Ontario Doubles. His lows, he had 1 point at World Singles. World Singles was tough this year. It's there's no shame in taking a low score there, and absolutely something he could cancel out and well move up from his 164 points.
So that's our top 10, but what are our predictions?
The really cool thing is we're halfway through the season. There are a lot of tournaments left. There are 14 more tournaments that are already approved and on the remainder of this season. 5 of them are Tier 1, and as I mentioned earlier, we take the top 5 scores, which means anyone. Someone who's never been to an NCAA tournament yet this season or at all could jump in and still has a shot to win. It's still anyone's game. That's not my prediction. I am not predicting that someone's going to come out of nowhere.
Now, hey, before you say that, Devin Fortino did come and place 2nd at the Belleville Crokinole Challenge. He beat Andrew Hutchinson in the semifinals. So I will literally say someone could.
Someone could.
Improbable, but possible. Aside from the improbable, but possible guesses, I would suppose that anybody in the top 20 right now has a legitimate shot, at the very least, of breaking into the top 10 and then potentially taking it all. Now, I'm not going to list all those names. We aren't here to list names. We do want to give a few shout outs to particular people. First most, Connor Reinman.
Yep.
Why is he not in the top 10?
Connor Reinman, his priorities are all askew. I don't know what's up with him. I've tried to talk to him. We ran an intervention and talked to him, and I think maybe we've gotten through to him. No, seriously, he had some school commitments as well as some work commitments that just took priority over his appearance at some Crokinole tournaments here, some Tier 1 tournaments. Anyway, yeah, the distance as well as just some life priorities have kept him away from those tournaments. And I guarantee you that he is not going to remain in 16th place. This is a 2-time world champion. Arguably one of the best to play the game right now, if not ever. Just incredibly skilled in every aspect of the game. I fully expect to see him shoot way up the standings.
Yeah, I would be surprised if he's not very, very quick to make up for lost time.
Yep.
Right now, he's won the world champion. He plays 2nd in world doubles, and then 3rd or 4th at Turtle Island. If he keeps up that track record, I would be amazed if he's not in top 10 by the next tournament he's attending, and then in those top 4 spots by the 2nd tournament after that. A few other people that I personally like to shout out. First most, Jamie Harder. Now Jamie, the traveling man, currently ranked 11th. He's not attended a single Tier 1 tournament, and yet he's very high in the standings. I mean, he traveled to Brooklyn, then Maryland, then Connecticut, then Vermont, then Houston. In all those tournaments, he placed top 3. He won Connecticut as well, so he has done extremely well. Now, if he wants to break those top 10, he either needs to win some Tier 2 tournaments or come out to some Tier 1 tourneys. I legitimately think he will make top 10 before the season is over.
I agree with you. He's a fantastic player, and I want to submit to the NCAA committee that perhaps we need to do some testing on that wristband that he wears. I feel like...
Aside from Jamie Harder, another prediction I have, something I'd be interested in seeing at the very least, is the players out in Europe and how they will end up at the end of the season. Most specifically, Adam Huzari, currently ranked 16th, tied with Connor Reinman. He was the champion of the Crokinole World Cup hosted in Hungary. A lot of those players are doing extremely well. I did the commentary on some of the matches from that tournament, and boy, can they shoot. If you haven't seen those, go to the Chevados Crokinole channel. They are fantastic. I would start talking defensive strategy, and then they'd angle in for a 20, score the 20, and just keep on going. Yeah, it would be very cool if they maybe take a plane ride for the World Crokinole Championships in 2025. I think a lot of players here are going to be unpleasantly surprised about how poorly they do against the European players, because, yeah, they're truly fantastic out there.
I can speak from personal experience. Like last year, Arpad made the trip over from Hungary, and I warmed up with him on Friday night, and I said to the guys afterward, I'm like, he's going to be a problem in a very positive way. He's a fantastic guy, fantastic player. And in 2019, I traveled to Hungary and competed, and really high level of play there. And I think based on what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, it continues to climb. I know that Brian Cook, who did fantastically well in the NCA when he was here, he is not winning the tournaments that are happening in the UK now at the gaming conventions and whatnot. When I see those tournaments, and there's times that Brian has, I'm not picking on Brian, but there's times when Brian doesn't make it to the finals. I'm like, holy crap! Like the caliber of play must really be climbing over there. It's like here, if when Justin Slater doesn't make it to the finals, it's like, wow, what's going on? Like the play is. The caliber of play is just climbing. It's climbing everywhere.
All right, those are my predictions and your thoughts. What are your predictions? Do you have anybody you'd specifically like to shout out?
You know what? I think that when we go into a tournament now, the expectation is that the top four are going to be Hutch, Ryman, Slater, Carfiello. Those really are, without insulting anybody else who's in the top 10 or outside of it. And the really cool thing is that there's a fairly long list of who could take one of those top. The Beerlings, you can't count those guys out. Ron Langell, you can't count him out. I feel like I've still got a little fight left in me. You, Reed, Nolan, there are Nathan Walsh, who is a very strong player. We just haven't seen him pop into that. But at any day, and I'm probably still forgetting someone, Fred Slater can friggin' catch you. And he catches his groove, and he could be up there. And I'm not trying to do the thing where I showed out every name. Those few names I just went through, I don't necessarily see them taking down the championship, but I don't think it's a shocker when they make it to a Final Four and have a serious run. I feel like it's getting tougher. I feel like the competition is getting tougher and tougher and tougher every year, every tournament, and that's my prediction. How's that for a non-prediction? My prediction is that the skill is just going to keep going up.
Here's a question for you. What are your predictions? Because we've only said our personal thoughts on like our 2 or 3 picks for what we expect to see, but what do you expect to see for the rest of the National Crokinole Association season? Make sure to drop a comment. Let us know what we missed or what you disagree with, what you agree with, and what your predictions are. With that, thank you for tuning in to our National Crokinole Association mid-season review. Make sure to leave your predictions in the comments below, and happy flicking.
Make it a great day.